As we remember former President Jimmy Carter today, a new opinion piece in the Washington Post, written by Carter's chief White House domestic policy advisor, argues, quote, conventional wisdom holds that Jimmy Carter was a failure as a president, redeemed only by his philanthropy and efforts to promote democracy in his post-presidential years. This is palpably wrong. Joining us now is that advisor, Stuart Eizenstat. He is also author of the book, President Carter, The White House Years. Stuart, welcome. I know you write that Carter's accomplishments at home and abroad were longer lasting than those of almost all modern presidents. So talk to us about that.
Thank you very much. First, I think he was the most impactful one-term president we've had in modern times. On the domestic scene, the energy security that we enjoy today was based on the foundation of 3 comprehensive energy bills that he passed, which deregulated natural gas and crude oil prices, allowing much greater production. We're now the biggest producer of both in the world. It put conservation at the centerpiece, and it started the whole renewable energy effort with tax credits for solar and putting panels on the top of the White House. Second, all the ethics legislation that is in place today, all of it was passed by President Carter. He was the education president, creating the Department of Education. He was a great environmentalist, doubling the size of the whole national park system. And something that was really important to consumers, he deregulated all modes of transportation, starting with airlines, which democratized airline travel and brought it to the middle class. He did the same with trucking, with rail. One of the reasons we have cable today is because he deregulated telecommunications and even beer with the craft industries. He was someone from the Deep South, grew up in a segregated state and region, and yet he was a great civil rights president, supported affirmative action, minority set-asides, and appointed more women and minorities, blacks and Hispanics, to the federal bench and to his administration than any of the 38 presidents born put together. Abroad, human rights was embedded in our foreign policy. It got thousands of political prisoners released in Latin America and put Latin America on the road to democracy from military dictatorships. Did the same with the Soviet Union and all of the weapon systems that Ronald Reagan implemented, and he deserves credit for doing so. But every single one of them was started by Jimmy Carter. The MX missile, the cruise missiles, mobile missiles, stealth bomber, intermediate nuclear forces in Europe, all of those were his. Next was the normalization with China, and last, and most lasting to this very day in the midst of the Gaza fighting, is the Camp David Accords, which brought peace between Israel and Egypt after 4 wars. And there's a beautiful anecdote to tell this, and that is the 13th day after Jimmy Carter, personally drafted 22 peace agreements and shuttled between Prime Minister Begin and President Sadat's cabins. Begin comes to Carter on the last day, the 13th day, and says, Mr. President, I can't make any more compromises. Get me a limousine. I've got a El Al plane waiting at Andrews Air Force Base to take me home. President Carter realizes this would be a disaster for Sadat after he had gone to Jerusalem. It would be a disaster for his own administration. He gets his personal secretary, Susan Cloud, to make 8 copies of the original photos taken, because he learned that Begin had 8 grandchildren and he had a great soft spot for them. He inscribes it personally to each of the 8, takes it to Begin's cabin, and sees Begin read each name aloud. Jimmy Carter with hopes for peace. His eyes tear up as he reads each one. His lips quiver, and he says, Mr. President, for your grandchildren, I'll make one last try. He puts his bag down, and that is what led to the Camp David Accords and the Egyptian Peace Treaty, which holds to this day, even in the midst of the Gaza fighting.
Wow, Stuart, you have just given us every reason to believe every word of what you've written in the Washington Post. But let me ask you about the timing of his presidency. This is a man who rose from very humble roots, and all of the things he accomplished we never would have known had he not gotten to the Oval Office. But the timing post-Watergate and the fact that a big campaign promise of his was, I will never lie to you. And he kept that promise. Do you think that is really, in essence, what elected him? The country was tired of the divisiveness and the problems and the relative corruption of Watergate, and that's what put him in the White House?
Exactly. When we started, he was Jimmy Who. He had 1% in the polls, and he went on What's My Line? We put him on What's My Line, the show where you guess what somebody's occupation was. He was the sitting governor of Georgia. No one knew. He hit a nerve spot, and that's what is essential for electing a president. And that nerve spot was Watergate. It wasn't just the cover-up. It was misusing the CIA, misusing the FBI. It was all the tricks, all the centralization, the imperial presidency. And by coming across as an outsider, ethical, I'll never lie to you, I want a government as good as its people, that struck a very responsive chord. We should also remember that between 1968 and 1992, he was the only Democrat elected as president. So this was a conservative era, broken only by Jimmy Carter, and he was a non-traditional Democrat. With all the things that I've mentioned, he ended up losing for three reasons. Number one, I call it the three I's. Inter-party warfare. He was not liberal enough for the liberal wing. Ted Kennedy challenged him, split the party at the convention, and never reconciled. Second was inflation, which was running at double-digit levels because, not of his policies, but because of the Iranian oil cutoff after the revolution. And here again is his courage. He appoints Paul Volcker as head of the Fed over the objection of all of us. Volcker says to him, Mr. President, if you appoint me, I want you to know I'm going to choke inflation out of the economy. It's going to create a very bad situation on the employment front in your election year. I want you to know that before you appoint me. Carter says, I don't want my legacy to the country to be leaving this inflation untamed. You do what you need to do economically. I'll take care of the politics. Well, inflation dropped like a rock 2 years after he left office. And third was, of course, the hostage crisis, which was so debilitating for 444 days. But even there, he got them out without one hair on their head being harmed. And Khomeini, to rub salt in the wound, only allowed those out after the election.
Stuart Eizenstat, what an honor talking with you. What a lesson you've given us. Thank you so much for your time and recollections. Thank you.